Time for Meals and Feels, brought to you by Meals on Wheels of the Monterey Peninsula. We've got Jacob Shafer here in the KRML Cabin in the Woods with us today. Jacob, welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. It's great to be here.
Well, we're at the end of the year, and one of the more unique things about where we live is the MC Gives campaign. And for folks that don't know, it really is pretty amazing. Most communities don't have something like this. And I know that this is a big deal for a lot of our local nonprofits that we work with, as well as you guys, right?
Yeah, a lot of people don't know this, but Monterey County has over 600 501c3 registered nonprofits.
That's a pretty high number.
Pretty dense when it comes to nonprofits, which is a great thing on one hand. But on the other, we're all in some sort of competition for those philanthropic dollars. So that's where MC Gives comes into play at the end of every year. And about half of the nonprofits in the county participate in that campaign.
And if people don't know, the beauty of MC Gives is you, if you're listening right now, you can go to MC Gives, you can choose how much and what nonprofits you want to donate to, and you'll be matched. And that's why this campaign has such a high impact. Really, if we're being honest, this is kind of one of those campaigns that often floats or allows a lot of the nonprofits to take that next step in whatever kind of adventures that they're going into, right?
It's so true. And there's kind of an educational component to it as well. If you want to donate, that's tremendous. You can support many different organizations, but you can also learn about them and kind of get a deeper dive into what they do and the impacts they have in the community.
It is pretty great. And it is a lot, like you said, but I encourage people to look into all the great things happening because we live in a special community with all of that. I want to keep it on Meals on Wheels, though, because we were talking before we got on the mic. It's been a real pleasure for me to learn so much more about what you guys do. And obviously, you guys do deliver meals, duh. But it's been really enlightening to find out all the other stuff. And you shared with me something that was pretty amazing, that the Meals on Wheels national organization released kind of some sobering statistics this morning, right?
They did. Actually, just a couple of hours ago, they released a study that they have been putting together for the past 6 months on client wait lists across the country and what that average time is. And unfortunately, it's hit an all-time high of 4 months nationally. So if you're a homebound senior, a client who's in need of nutrition, and you call up your local Meals on Wheels, wherever you are, the average time from that phone call until you get your first delivery is 4 months.
And, average, which means that there are some places that are probably closer to 7-8 months. But the other side of that coin, as sad as that might be, is that you guys have never had a wait list here for the Monterey Peninsula Meals on Wheels.
53 years and counting. We're very, very proud of that. We got to give it up to our staff who does all the meal production and our volunteers who do all the meal delivery. And in just the last handful of years, the demand for our services has more than doubled. So we're making out of our kitchen in Pacific Grove over 1,000 meals a day. And we have yet to have a wait list in all of that time. So we want to keep that going. Fingers crossed. That's where the community support really comes in to help us serve those in need right away.
Well, I love that you gave credit to the kitchen staff because cranking out that many meals a day is insane. But that's kind of like one of the last stages for how this happens, right? And just the idea of any other business having to deal with doubling, what they're supposed to produce in such a short period of time, that would sink some businesses. How have you guys been able to stay ahead of it?
We've had to get really creative, really innovative. With the support of our board of directors, we are using every square inch of the facility that we have in Pacific Grove. It was built in the late 80s with something around 300 meals a day in mind as a capacity. And we're quadruple that now.
Wow.
So we've invested in high capacity equipment. We've hired staff. We've recruited more volunteers from the community. We've added vehicles, refrigeration, you name it. We've all kind of put this wonderful recipe together to be able to create that many meals per day and to meet that demand in the community.
That's amazing. Kudos to the whole team for that. And I do say team because there's a lot of facets that probably stuff that we'll never get a chance to talk about or that I'll never realize that are integral parts in that happening. But to shift it back to folks out there listening, this is able to happen because folks generously donating or getting involved as volunteers, right?
Yeah, either way, I mean, the cost of food and the cost of transportation has never been higher.
Yeah.
So a per meal cost to produce is a lot higher than it was even pre-COVID. So you take that in tandem with a doubling in demand, and then the costs are going up. We could have never pulled off what we have and met that demand without that philanthropic support from our friends and our neighbors.
Well, I encourage people to go to mowmp.org. You can find out all the information about Meals on Wheels, the Monterey Peninsula there, but go to MC Gives. I believe it's mcgives.com, right? Mm-hmm. And you can donate there. So this is a really great program, but I wanted to give you the caveat that you only have until midnight tonight. Midnight tonight is the deadline.
Yep, midnight, every dollar will stay local. Every dollar will go towards supporting our operational budget and food purchases. And, in hand with the volunteers, we'll continue to meet the need.
All right. Well, Jacob, thank you so much for coming in. We really appreciate it.
Pleasure, Jeff. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. That was Meals and Feels here on KRML, brought to you by Meals on Wheels of the Monterey Peninsula. Find out more at mowmp.org. We'll be right back after a few words from some of the local folks who believe that local radio works here on KRML.